Imagine saving every single dollar for years, only to find out your mom secretly drained your $35,000 for a luxury vacation you weren't even invited to. Stay with me as I tell you what happened, and if my story hits home, maybe share it with someone who's ever felt betrayed by the people they trusted most. My name's Ethan Mallory. I'm 24, and I've been saving every extra dollar since I was 17. I worked weekends, skipped parties, and fixed computers for neighbors just to build something for my future. $35,000. That was my ticket to grad school, maybe even a down payment on a small apartment. It wasn't much compared to what some people had, but it was everything to me. I shared that account with my mom, Diane. She said it was just in case something happened to me, like an emergency. She's the kind of mom everyone sees as kind and charming, always smiling at neighbors, baking cookies for church. But inside the house, it was different. She had a way of making you feel guilty for wanting anything that didn't include her. My sister Brianna was her favorite. She was 21, always pampered, always defended. If I bought myself something small, Mom would ask why I didn't get something for Brianna too. One Thursday evening, I logged into my savings account to check how close I was to my next goal. I almost thought it was a glitch. The balance showed 4 digits instead of 5. My stomach dropped. I refreshed the page, thinking maybe the bank was updating something. But no, it was real. Over $35,000 gone. Just gone. I called my mom right away. She sounded calm, like she'd been expecting it. "Oh, honey, I had to use some of it," she said, her voice sweet but distant. "Bills were piling up, you know how it is." "Some of it," I said. "Mom, the whole thing's gone." She sighed like I was overreacting. "Don't be dramatic, Ethan. You're young, you'll earn it back. Family comes first." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every time she'd called me responsible. Every time she'd said she was proud of me for saving. It all felt like a joke now. The next day, I came home early from work and heard laughter coming from the kitchen. Brianna was on the phone, giggling. "I can't wait for Italy," she said. "Mom says it'll be a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Just the 2 of us. Italy." My heart started pounding. The pieces fell together so fast it made me dizzy. My mom hadn't used my savings for bills. She'd used it for a secret vacation. A luxury escape for herself and the daughter she always preferred. I didn't walk into the kitchen. I just stood there, listening. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clearer than it had ever been. They thought I'd never find out. But I had. And in that moment, I made a quiet promise to myself. This time, I wouldn't let them get away with it. When I finally confronted my mom, she didn't even look surprised. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her tablet like nothing was wrong. I stood there for a second, gripping the phone with the screenshots of the missing transactions. My voice was shaking, but I managed to say it. "You took my money, Mom. All of it." She looked up slowly, eyebrows raised. "Excuse me?" "The 35 grand, I said. My savings. You spent it." She laughed, a small, sharp laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan, you make it sound like I robbed you. I used it for the family. You should be grateful I took care of things." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Grateful? You drained my account. That was my future." Her tone shifted, colder now. "You're being dramatic. You've always been so selfish. Everything has to be about you. I carried you for 9 months, and you can't even help your own mother." My throat went dry. Every word she said twisted like a knife. I wanted to yell, but instead I just stood there, trying to stay calm. "I've helped you for years," I said quietly. "But this isn't help. This is stealing." She rolled her eyes, turned back to her tablet, and muttered, "You'll make it back. You're young." I walked out before I said something I'd regret. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I opened Brianna's social feed just out of habit, and that's when I saw it. She'd posted a photo of 2 passports on the kitchen counter with the caption, "Exclusive getaway with my favorite person airplane departure #, Italy here we come." My chest tightened. It wasn't even subtle. She didn't care if I saw it. Neither of them did. That night, I sat at my desk going through every single bank statement from the past 3 months. It didn't take long to see the pattern. Small withdrawals every few days, labeled as credit payments or miscellaneous bills. Mom had been moving the money out quietly, piece by piece, while pretending everything was fine. By the time I was done adding it all up, my jaw ached from how hard I'd been clenching it. Every dollar I'd earned, every sacrifice I'd made, it was gone. Not by mistake. Not out of need. but because my mom decided she deserved my future more than I did. I tried to talk to her one last time, hoping maybe she'd see what she'd done. She didn't even look guilty. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm, "you need to stop being so dramatic. Families share. You act like money matters more than love." I stared at her for a long time, realizing she actually believed it. She'd rewritten the story in her mind, so she was the victim and I was the villain. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't an accident. This was betrayal, planned, polished, and served with a smile. I woke up before sunrise, not because I wanted to, but because sleep wouldn't come. My mind was a storm that refused to quiet down. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mom's face, calm, proud, almost smug, as she told me I'd make the money back. The words kept echoing until I couldn't take it anymore. That morning, I made up my mind. I wouldn't argue, I wouldn't beg, I wouldn't yell. I was done talking. I showered, got dressed, and drove to the bank without telling anyone. The air outside was heavy, like it knew what I was about to do. Inside, everything smelled like cold paper and disinfectant. The teller smiled politely, but when I asked to speak with a manager about urgent account activity, the smile faded fast. The manager, a man named Mr. Turner, led me into a small office. He was older, calm, with kind eyes that studied me carefully. "What seems to be the problem, Mr. Mallory?" I took a breath and told him everything. The withdrawals, the lies, the joint account that my mother used to drain every dollar I'd saved. I showed him the bank statements, the patterns, the dates. He nodded slowly, his expression tightening. "Has she made any new transactions recently?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I think she's paying for a trip. Italy. Probably using my money." He turned to his computer, typing fast. The soft tapping of the keys filled the silence. After a few minutes, he looked back at me. "You're right. There's a pending international transfer, large sum, not fully processed yet." My heart kicked in my chest. "Can you stop it?" He hesitated. "It's a joint account, but if you claim the withdrawals were unauthorized, we can freeze it while we investigate." "I want that," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. "Freeze it. All of it." He nodded. "We'll flag the account for suspected fraud. That means all outgoing transactions will be blocked until verification is complete." As he typed, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time since this started, I wasn't powerless. I wasn't the victim anymore. The storm inside me was finally moving, but it wasn't rage anymore. It was focus. When the paperwork was done, I signed my name at the bottom and watched him submit the request. "You should start seeing reversals within a few days," Mr. Turner said. "The pending trip payments will likely bounce back." I thanked him quietly and walked out. The sun had risen by then, the light hitting the glass doors as I stepped into the parking lot. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. When I got home, Mom and Brianna were in the kitchen, laughing over travel guides and suitcase tags. They didn't notice me. I poured myself coffee, pretending everything was normal. Let them laugh, I thought. Let them plan. They had no idea what was coming when they reached the airport. The morning they were leaving felt unreal. The house buzzed with noise, zippers, perfume, laughter. I stood in the hallway, leaning against the wall, watching as Mom and Brianna darted back and forth between their rooms like it was Christmas morning. They were both glowing with excitement, dressed in new travel outfits that I hadn't seen before. Mom wore a silk scarf around her neck and Brianna had a shiny new suitcase with gold trim. "Finally doing something for ourselves," Mom said, smiling at Brianna as she folded a beach dress into her bag. "We deserve this after everything." Brianna laughed, tossing her hair. "Yeah, we've earned a little fun. Ethan never does anything spontaneous. He's so serious all the time." Their voices felt like background noise now. I just watched, silent. My coffee was cold in my hand, but I didn't move. Every word they said reminded me of the years I'd spent saving while they mocked me for being cheap. It was strange, seeing the people who raised you turn into strangers right in front of you. When the taxi arrived, they both rushed to the door, dragging their suitcases behind them. Brianna waved. "Don't wait up, Ethan. We'll bring you back something nice." I forced a smile. "You do that." As the door shut behind them, the house went quiet again. Just me, the ticking clock, and the faint smell of Mom's perfume hanging in the air. I sat down at the kitchen table, took a long sip of coffee, and waited. It didn't take long. About 2 hours later, my phone started buzzing. First once, then again. Mom's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. Then Brianna called. Then Mom again. I finally answered, keeping my voice calm. Ethan. Mom's voice was high and frantic. What did you do to the bank account? Our cards aren't working. The airline said our tickets were canceled. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the sunlight crawling across the floor. Guess the bank didn't approve fraud this time. There was silence on the other end for a second. Then her voice exploded through the speaker. Fraud? How dare you? You ungrateful little brat. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me. I didn't raise my voice. You mean after you stole my life savings to take a trip without me? Brianna's voice came faintly in the background, panicked. Mom, the airline guy's asking what's happening. Fix this. Mom screamed. Now. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked to the window. Outside, the street was calm, almost peaceful. No, Mom, I said quietly. You fix it. She yelled something else, but I didn't listen. I hung up. The sound of the call ending filled the empty room like a full stop at the end of a long, ugly sentence. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. They were finally facing the consequences, and I didn't need to lift a finger. The front door slammed so hard the whole house shook. I didn't even have to look up to know they were back. Their laughter from the morning was gone. Now it was shouting, footsteps, and the sound of bags hitting the floor. I sat on the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone while the chaos erupted around me. Mom stormed into the living room first, her face red and tight with fury. How could you do this to us? She snapped. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to stand there like idiots at the airport while everyone stared? They thought we were scammers, Ethan. Brianna followed behind her, crying hard, mascara streaking down her face. They took our bags off the plane. We had to sit there while they checked our tickets in front of everyone. I looked up slowly. I can't imagine how embarrassing that must have been, I said quietly. Mom glared at me like she could burn a hole through my skull. You think this is funny? You've ruined a family moment we've been planning for months. I set my phone down. A family moment? You mean the one you planned with my money? The one you didn't even invite me to. Her lips tightened. You're being dramatic again. You could have handled this privately. You didn't have to sabotage your own family. Before I could answer, the front door opened again. My dad, Mark, stepped inside. He'd been living separately for a while, still part of our lives, but not really there. When he saw the tension, he stopped in the doorway, eyes narrowing. What's going on? Mom spun toward him, her voice breaking. Your son froze our account and canceled our trip. He embarrassed me, Mark. He humiliated us. Dad's gaze shifted to me. Is that true? I met his eyes. Yeah. She took all my savings for that trip. Every cent I've worked for since high school. Something changed in his face then, a mix of disbelief and anger. He looked back at Mom. You did what? Oh, please, she said, folding her arms. It's family money. He lives under my roof. I didn't steal anything. It wasn't family money, I said, standing. It was mine. You used my dream to fund yours. Brianna started crying again, louder this time. It was supposed to be my dream trip. You ruined everything. I turned to her, my voice flat. You ruined mine first. Dad stepped forward, his tone sharp. You're going to pay him back, Diane. Every dollar. She scoffed, crossing her arms. Don't you start too. You always take his side. This isn't about sides, he said, his voice rising. It's about right and wrong. Mom's expression hardened. If that's how it's going to be, maybe I shouldn't be here at all. She grabbed her purse and stormed off toward her room, muttering under her breath. The slam of her door echoed through the house. For a long time, none of us said a word. Brianna sniffled. Dad just sighed and rubbed his temples. I stared at the closed door and realized something had cracked in this family. And it wasn't going to be fixed. I packed my things that night. Just the essentials, laptop, clothes, documents, the few pieces of my life that hadn't been touched by her betrayal. The house was quiet except for the faint sound of Mom's voice in her room. She was on the phone again, probably telling someone how her ungrateful son ruined her life. I didn't bother saying goodbye. I just slipped out, tossed my duffel bag into the back of my car, and drove away. Caleb lived across town in a small apartment above a coffee shop. He'd been my closest friend since college, the kind of person who never asked too many questions until you were ready to talk. When I showed up at his door close to midnight, he didn't say a word, just opened the door wider and let me in. You good? He asked finally as I set my bag down. Not really, I said. But I will be. For the next few days, I buried myself in work. I set up my laptop on his kitchen table and started going through every bank statement, every email, every withdrawal receipt. I built a timeline, highlighting each transaction Mom made. Every time she lied about it being for bills or repairs. By the end of it, I had a thick folder of evidence that made her story look like what it really was: theft. I didn't plan to go to court, not yet. But I wanted the truth to be solid, undeniable. A few days later, the calls started. First it was Aunt Karen, her voice sharp with judgment. "Ethan, your mother says you froze her account and took money that didn't belong to you. Is that true?" I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just said, "I'll text you something," and sent her the PDF of the bank statements. A few minutes later, she called back, her tone completely different. "Oh, Ethan, I didn't know. I'm sorry, honey." Then it was Uncle Phil, then my grandparents, then a cousin I hadn't talked to in years. Each one started the same way, accusing, disappointed, and ended with quiet apologies once they saw the proof. I didn't have to yell or explain anymore. The truth spoke for itself. Meanwhile, Mom kept calling, leaving voicemails full of guilt trips and half-hearted tears. "You're tearing this family apart," she said in one. "You've turned everyone against me." But I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She was the one who had handed me the ammunition when she thought I'd never use it. Caleb watched me one evening as I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair. "You think she gets it now?" he asked. I thought for a moment, staring at the folder of evidence sitting on the table. "She doesn't get it yet," I said quietly. "But she will." And for the first time in a long while, I felt a strange kind of peace. Not the warm kind, but the steady kind that comes when you finally stop explaining yourself to people who never wanted to listen. It had been 3 weeks since I moved in with Caleb, when I finally decided to take the next step. The evidence was solid, every transaction marked, every lie documented. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I had been before. The anger had burned itself into something colder, sharper. It wasn't about revenge now. It was about justice. I sat in the corner of Caleb's living room, laptop open, filling out the forms for a civil complaint. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before I typed in her name, Diane Mallory. Seeing it there, written under the section marked defendant, gave me a strange sense of clarity. She wasn't just my mother anymore. She was the person who stole from me. The process took hours. I attached the statements, the bank correspondence, even the recorded voicemail where she admitted to using the money for family stuff. When I clicked submit, I felt the smallest rush of relief. The wheels were in motion now. A few days later, the bank called her for questioning. I didn't hear it firsthand, but I imagined her sitting at the kitchen table, clutching the phone, realizing that the story she'd told everyone was starting to crumble. She called me 6 times that day. I didn't pick up. By evening, Brianna reached out instead. Her voice was quiet, almost frightened. "Ethan, Mom's freaking out. She said the bank's freezing her cards and that she might get charged. Did you really file something?" "Yes," I said simply. She was silent for a long moment. I thought it was just, I don't know, a misunderstanding. I didn't think she actually took everything. "She did," I said. "And she lied about it. To both of us." "I didn't know," she whispered, her voice breaking a little. "She told me it was her savings." For the first time, I almost felt bad for her. Brianna had always been selfish, but she wasn't malicious. She was just caught in Mom's orbit, like everyone else. "It's not your fault," I said finally. "But you might want to stay out of this." Over the next week, things began to unravel fast. Mom's credit accounts were flagged under the same fraud investigation. The card company froze her lines, and her car payment bounced. She tried calling the bank, demanding to speak to managers, but they only repeated the same thing. "We can't discuss the matter while it's under review." Her pride didn't just crack, it shattered. The woman who'd strutted around town like she was untouchable suddenly went quiet. Neighbors stopped hearing from her. Family stopped defending her. Even Brianna stopped coming home. Meanwhile, I stayed silent. No gloating, no confrontation. I went to work, came home, cooked dinner, and waited. I didn't need to shout or prove anything anymore. The truth was doing that for me. My revenge wasn't loud. It was quiet, methodical, and clean like surgery. And by the time it was done, there would be nothing left for her to hide behind. The calls from family stopped coming, not because they were on her side, but because no one believed her anymore. Word had spread fast. Aunt Linda was the first to say what everyone else had been whispering. "Diane," she told her over the phone, her voice cold and flat, You're reaping what you sowed. You lied, you stole, and now you're paying for it. Mom hung up on her, but the damage was done. By the end of the week, her name was poison in the family group chat. I heard about all of it through Brianna. She was the only one still talking to me, though even she sounded exhausted when she called. She's not eating, Ethan, she said one night. She just sits there watching TV, like she's waiting for something. Please drop the case. It's not worth it. I leaned against the counter in Caleb's kitchen, phone pressed to my ear. She's not losing it because of the case, I said. She's losing it because she finally can't control the story. Brianna sighed. You don't understand. She's different now. She keeps saying you hate her. She lost me first, I said quietly. There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear her blinking back tears. I don't know what to do anymore, she whispered. Do what's best for you, I told her. You don't have to go down with her. 2 days later, she did exactly that. I came by the old house to grab some mail, and her car was packed with boxes. She was standing in the driveway, crying as she tried to shove her suitcase into the back seat. She told me to go, Brianna said, her voice cracking. Said she doesn't want to look at me because I sided with you. I didn't even say anything, Ethan. I couldn't take it anymore. I helped her load the last box into the car. Where will you go? To Ryan's, she said softly. He said I could stay with him for a while. I nodded. She gave me a shaky smile before driving away, leaving the house looking emptier than ever. Through the living room window, I could see Mom sitting on the couch, still in her robe, a cup of untouched coffee beside her. The blinds were half closed, the light dim. The woman who used to fill every room with her voice now sat in total silence. I didn't go inside. There was nothing left to say. As I got back in my car, I caught one last glimpse of her through the window. Her hand pressed against her forehead, her shoulders shaking. Maybe she was crying, maybe not. Either way, I didn't feel satisfaction. Just a dull, quiet ache. For the first time, she was truly alone. No allies, no excuses, no one left to manipulate. Only the silence she had built, brick by brick, around herself. It had been almost 4 months since I'd heard her voice. Life had started to feel normal again. I was working, saving, and spending weekends fixing up a used car with Caleb. The noise in my head had finally quieted. Until one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a number I knew by heart. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Hello. There was a pause, then her voice, softer than I remembered. Ethan, it's me. I didn't say anything. Can we talk? She asked. Just once. I need to see you. I almost said no. But curiosity, or maybe closure, won. Where? Marley's Diner, she said quickly. Tomorrow morning. The place was half empty when I walked in. The smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease clung to the air. She was already there, sitting in a booth by the window, hands folded around a cup that had long gone cold. When she looked up, I barely recognized her. Her hair was unkempt, her face pale, the spark she used to carry nowhere in sight. Ethan, she said softly, forcing a smile. You came. I slid into the seat across from her. You wanted to talk. For a moment, she just stared at me, as if she didn't know where to start. Then quietly, I'm sorry. The words hung there, thin and fragile. I shouldn't have taken your money, she continued. I wasn't thinking straight. Everything was falling apart, and I just wanted something for myself. Something good. You have no idea what it's like being a mother who's given up everything. There it was, the twist. The apology that wasn't an apology. I said nothing, just watched her twist the napkin in her hands. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said again, her voice trembling. But you went too far, Ethan. You turned everyone against me. You could have just talked to me. I leaned back, my eyes steady on hers. I did talk to you, I said. You just didn't listen. She looked away, biting her lip. You think I deserve all this? To lose my family? My daughter barely calls me anymore. You did that, I said quietly. Not me. Her eyes filled with tears. I was your mother. You were supposed to forgive me. I nodded slowly. I would have, if you'd ever admitted what you did. She blinked, confused. I just told you I was sorry. I took a sip of my coffee and set it down. Apologies without accountability are just more lies. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the clatter of dishes from the kitchen. She looked at me, searching for something in my face, maybe sympathy, maybe guilt, but I had none left to give. I stood up, pulled a few dollars from my wallet, and set them on the table. For the coffee, I said. Then I walked out, leaving her staring at the empty booth across from her, the steam from her untouched cup fading into the air. The apartment wasn't much, one bedroom, old hardwood floors, and a window that looked out over a noisy street. But it was mine. Every corner of it felt like a fresh start. I'd used the recovered funds and a small compensation from the bank to move in, buy a decent couch, and finally replace my dying laptop. No one had a key but me. No one could touch what was inside. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Classes started again in the fall, and I threw myself into them completely. I studied late, worked part-time, and spent weekends in the library instead of at home with family drama. My professors noticed the change. I wasn't distracted anymore. Every goal I had pushed off because of other people's needs was back in focus. There was peace in the quiet routine. Wake up, study, work, sleep. Simple. Safe. Brianna reached out first. It was a handwritten letter, delivered to my mailbox one gray afternoon. Her handwriting was messy, smudged in a few places like she'd been crying while writing. She said she finally understood what I'd felt, how blind she'd been to Mom's manipulation. She told me she'd seen Mom fall apart and realized that everything I'd said was true. She wrote, "You were right, Ethan. I thought she loved us both the same, but she didn't. She loved control. I'm sorry for not standing up for you when it mattered. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know I get it now." I read it twice, maybe 3 times, before setting it down. The words didn't erase everything, but they carried something real, awareness. I wrote her back a short note. "I forgive you, Bree. I hope you find peace too." That was enough. We didn't need to pretend things were the same. Some relationships don't need to end in hate. They just need space to heal on their own. Mom tried reaching out too, though not in words I could believe. A text on Thanksgiving. "Hope you're doing okay. I made your favorite pie." Then one on Christmas. "Miss you." I never replied. I'd already heard every version of her apologies before, and none of them had changed who she was. Some doors, once closed, needed to stay that way. Life moved forward quietly. One evening, after submitting my final paper for the semester, I sat at my small kitchen table, a mug of coffee beside me, and opened my banking app. The numbers were solid again. Stable. My name alone at the top of the account. I stared at it for a long time, not because I cared about the balance, but because of what it meant. Security. Independence. Freedom. Outside, the city buzzed with noise, cars, voices, life happening. Inside, it was calm. I leaned back, closed my laptop, and let a small smile tug at the corner of my mouth. Revenge didn't give me peace. Boundaries did. If this story hit home for you, share it with someone who's been through betrayal or family drama. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life stories that dig deep into what people rarely talk about.